John the Liquidator coming back with major news. So it looked like the Caitlyn Clark effect has paid dividends for the WNBA owners. We finally have a light at the end of the tunnel, possibly.
Picture the league's biggest draw looking around and realizing something simple. The product moves when she moves. Ticket demand spikes when her name hits the schedule. Networks lean in when she's on the graphic. Sponsors don't call back for potential. They call back for certainty. And once that kind of leverage clicks, you stop negotiating like a rookie and you start negotiating like an owner.
I'm here to tell you, one face, one name, one effect just helped y'all finally get in the green, at least for 1 year. That is the Caitlyn Clark effect.
That's why the mood around the 2026 season feels different. Not loud on the surface, but tense underneath. Because the next labor deal isn't just another round of incremental raises and polite press releases. It's a reset button.
We already knew this. Caitlyn Clark effect was going to work out tremendously for the league.
The union's opt-out doesn't just reopen salary talk, it reopens the entire structure of who gets paid, when they get paid, and how the value is measured in the first place. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. The league has always been able to rely on a certain kind of athlete mindset. Play through it, be grateful, keep the peace, take the hits, take the narratives, take the growing pains, and let the business side catch up later. But later is over when a single player can tilt attendance, ratings, and merchandise in every market. So now the whispers aren't about a small list of demands, they're about a line in the sand.
This is major blockbuster news, because for the simple fact, even Kathy Engelbert herself tried to downplay the Caitlyn Clark effect like it wasn't real, like it was a fairy tale, like, Caitlyn basically tried to say that she did Caitlyn effect.
Real conditions, real leverage, real consequences. The kind of conditions that force owners and executives to answer uncomfortable questions they've avoided for years. Q. Questions like why the financial upside doesn't match the visibility, why the travel standards still feel behind major pro sports, why marketing is treated like a favor instead of an obligation, why player protection and officiating consistency still turn into a weekly debate instead of a solved problem. If you're a veteran who built this league brick by brick, you might hear that and think, finally, somebody's got the power to make them listen.
This is major news. This is Katie Barnes here, and I'm telling you right now, I know some of y'all is wondering, what the hell do CC got to do with this? CC single-handedly. I don't want to hear nothing else about other players, about other superstars potentially being a factor, because when you talk about Caitlyn Clark, y'all better put some respect on her damn name.
Now, if you're an executive who's used to controlling the tempo, you hear it and think, this can get out of hand fast. Because once the face of the league stops framing this as help us grow and starts framing it as pay what the growth is worth, the conversation shifts. It stops being emotional. It stops being symbolic. It becomes transactional. And when it becomes transactional, the person bringing the most receipts usually wins. This is the setup, not for drama, but for a standoff. And the closer we get to 2026, the more obvious it becomes that the league isn't negotiating with players anymore. They're negotiating with a market force. Here's the part that makes the whole situation feel absurd when you say it out loud. You can't build appointment television around one player, watch her pull numbers the league has never seen, watch arenas flip to sold out the moment she's on the calendar, and then pretend the compensation structure is still normal.
What does that mean? Damn, they got all CC jersey sales and trading card profits. Caitlyn Clark 2024 rookie royalty WNBA flawless logo woman 1-in-1 sold for $660,000. Thursday night becoming the most expensive card of a female athlete at a public auction.
Fans see the business exploding in real time, and they also see the pay scale lagging behind like it's stuck in another era. So the conversation isn't, should players make more? The conversation is, what is the league actually selling and who gets the upside? Because once the money starts moving, the old model starts looking like a choice. not a limitation. And if the league can sign massive media partnerships and expand its footprint, then the people creating the demand are going to want proof they're not just being used as the marketing engine while someone else collects the reward. That's why the biggest rumor around 2026 isn't about a single salary number. It's about a restructuring, a new definition of fairness, a revenue-sharing framework that treats the players like partners in the product, not hired labor that should be grateful for exposure. Whether the final number is 50-50 or something else, the message is the same. This can't keep being a system where growth is celebrated publicly and withheld privately. And if the league thinks this is only about money, they're missing the deeper pressure point, because the other half of the leverage is physical. It's safety, it's credibility, it's the optics of watching the league's most visible player take repeated punishment while the rule enforcement looks inconsistent, hesitant, and reactive. Fans don't mind toughness. Players don't mind contact, but there's a line between competitive intensity and repeated, targeted shots that feel like they're testing what the league will allow. And last season, too many sequences looked less like basketball violence within the game and more like a message being sent. The problem is that silence from the top reads like permission. When the league doesn't come down hard, it tells every defender exactly how far they can push it. It tells every veteran with pride on the line that the cost of making a point is manageable. And it tells the star at the center of it all that protecting the product isn't really the priority. At least not when it creates tension with the old guard.
You're ladies, you're trying to make this money and you're trying to build off the league. And my advice, and I've said this in the past, would be this. Continue to strive hard to get yours, be reasonable, understand where the lines are drawn in the sand and go from there. But a rising tide lifts all boats. Yeah. Whoever is the marketing, whether it's the Caitlyn Clark, it's the Unesco's or anybody else, ride those waves unapologetically, because ultimately it builds the popularity of the league and everyone will benefit in some capacity down the line.
So now imagine the 2026 negotiation from her side. It's not just a demand for a bigger slice. It's a demand for structural proof that the league understands what it's holding. Pay structure that reflects the value being generated, and enforcement that protects the athletes generating it. Not as a favor, as policy. Because if you're the face that brought the world to the door, you don't have to beg to be treated like an asset. You can simply make the league answer one question: what are you willing to change to keep the main reason people showed up? And this is where the story stops being just about contracts and starts becoming about control. Because once a player reaches a level where the league's entire ecosystem bends around her presence, every part of the machine gets re-examined. Not just salary, not just endorsements, everything.
It can't always be about what you want in the immediate. You have to have a marathon's point of view as opposed to a sprinter.
Yeah.
So that was Stephen A. Smith speaking about the current situation dealing with these ladies. Now, this article goes into grave detail talking about how they found these figures, how they came up with it. WNBA generated enough revenue in 2025 to trigger revenue sharing with this players. Union leaders told ESPN on Sunday. Union leaders said that the league notified player leadership earlier this month that they hit the benchmark. The 13 teams will receive a total of $8 million from the league to disperse among players. Caitlyn Clark single-handedly helped y'all do that, man.
The next phase of this pressure campaign is reportedly centered on one core idea: protection. Not symbolic protection, real protection. The kind that shows up in the rule book, in the whistle, in the fines, and in the daily operating standards of the league. The message is simple. If the league wants to present its brightest star as the face of a global movement, then it cannot keep treating player safety like a secondary issue that only matters after the backlash hits social media. That means the standard many people expect in 2026 could look very different from what fans watched during her rookie year. More aggressive flagrant foul enforcement, less tolerance for repeated off-ball cheap shots, bigger financial penalties for players who cross the line, a clearer distinction between hard basketball and targeted behavior designed to send a message. Not because anyone is asking for a softer game, but because there is a difference between physical competition and a culture that quietly excuses intimidation when the spotlight gets too bright. And the pressure doesn't stop once the final buzzer sounds, because one of the most revealing parts of last season had nothing to do with a box score. It was the visual of a league caught off guard by its own popularity. Crowds swelling in places that used to feel routine, public spaces becoming chaotic, security looking improvised instead of prepared, travel logistics that felt built for a smaller era, trying to survive in a bigger one. That disconnect mattered. It exposed how fast the spotlight had grown and how slowly the infrastructure was catching up. A league that suddenly wants to call itself premier cannot operate like it is still planning for yesterday's audience. Once a player's presence can turn an airport, a tunnel, or a hotel entrance into a high-risk environment, the old assumptions collapse. What used to be manageable becomes reckless. So now, as the 2026 season moves closer, the expectation is no longer that players simply adapt to inadequate systems. The expectation is that the systems evolve. Charter travel should not be treated like an emergency patch rolled out after public embarrassment. It should be the baseline. Professional security should not be reactive, inconsistent, or dependent on the venue deciding to take things seriously. It should be part of the operating standard. If the league wants to market itself as elite, the travel, access control, and safety procedures have to look elite too. And that is what makes this standoff so serious, because once those demands become structural, they become expensive. They require real investment. They force executives to choose between protecting margins and protecting the product. And that is where the leverage shifts to the star, because unlike previous eras, the biggest name in the sport is no longer trapped into believing there is only one path available. That may be the most unsettling reality for the people in charge. The traditional league is not the only stage anymore. New opportunities are emerging everywhere, and even the possibility of alternatives changes the balance of power. Startup leagues with investor money, short-format competitions that promise major visibility in far less time, overseas clubs with deep budgets, and no shortage of interest in attaching themselves to global star power. Special event tours, off-season showcases, branded exhibitions. The options are not identical, but they don't need to be. They only need to be credible enough to give a superstar negotiating room. And once that happens, the conversation changes from "she needs the league" to "the league needs to prove why it deserves her." That is a dangerous shift for any commissioner's office, because television partners, sponsors, and arena operators all understand the difference between a healthy league and a league carried by one gravitational force. If that force ever hints that it might step away, the panic doesn't stay inside the front office. It spreads everywhere. But even with that kind of leverage, there is still a wall in front of her, and that wall is the old guard. The veterans who spent years building visibility without the same rewards. The players who feel they paid the price during the league's leaner years, and now resent watching a younger star arrive with enough influence to reshape everything in one negotiation cycle. That resentment is not hard to understand, even if it creates a combustible environment. Because from their perspective, the current boom did not appear out of nowhere. They carried the league when the spotlight was dimmer, the pay was lower, and the attention was inconsistent. So when the narrative becomes one player changed everything, some of them hear erasure. They hear their sacrifices being minimized. They hear the future being built in a way that may benefit the top earners first, while everyone else keeps waiting. That creates a split in priorities. One side sees this as the perfect moment for aggressive modernization.
The revenue targets in the 2020 CBA were based on 2019 numbers and compound by 20% across subsequent years to COVID pandemic. That's before Caitlyn Clark got there. But here you go right here. Under the 2020, players would receive 50% of revenue share defined in the CBA as the amount of revenue threshold minus 30% for expenses. So for the first time in league history, these young ladies is finally finna get some money, and they definitely owe it to CC. Get down in the comment section. Let me know y'all thoughts about this one. Make sure y'all keep them bills on. I'm gonna keep you up to date. And until next time, man, shake the haters off. I'm out of here, bruh. Peace out.
A chance to force the business to catch up with the demand. The other side sees a need for broader, slower gains that spread more evenly across the roster. And when those philosophies collide inside union rooms, the tension becomes bigger than one player. It becomes a fight over the identity of the league itself, which is exactly why executives are stuck in the worst possible position. Move too quickly toward the superstar's vision, and they risk inflaming veteran voices who still carry influence in locker rooms and media circles. Move too slowly, and they risk alienating the one player whose presence has become central to the league's momentum. Either choice carries consequences. Either choice creates enemies. And now that pressure is bleeding into team-level decisions too. Because when a franchise suddenly changes leadership right after a breakthrough season, everyone notices. Fans notice. Players notice. Agents notice. Whether the move was basketball-related, political, or some combination of both, the message is impossible to ignore. Organizations are adjusting to a new power center. Coaching changes, front office decisions, and culture shifts are no longer being viewed in isolation. They are being viewed through one question: who is this really for? That is what makes this moment so volatile. It is not just about a contract, a whistle, or a travel policy. It is about an entire system being forced to confront whether it is prepared for the realities of modern star power. And if the answer is no, then 2026 may not just be a negotiation year. It may be the year the balance of power in women's basketball changes for good. And that's the real ending nobody wants to admit out loud. This isn't just a negotiation. It's a verdict on what the league is willing to become. Because if the league meets the moment, if it modernizes the revenue model, tightens enforcement, locks in elite travel, and treats player safety like a non-negotiable standard, then this era becomes the launch pad. Not just for one superstar, but for the entire sport. It becomes the proof that women's basketball can operate like a true major league, with major league infrastructure, major league protections, and major league financial respect. But if the league hesitates, if it tries to split the difference, if it hides behind tradition, ego, or internal politics, then it's choosing a different future. A smaller future. A future where the biggest stars learn the hard lesson that loyalty is optional and leverage is everything. And once that lesson is learned, you cannot unlearn it. Because here's what makes this situation so dangerous for the people in suits. They don't get to control the next move. The player does. And the leverage isn't theoretical anymore. It's measurable, it's in the ratings, it's in the packed arenas, it's in the sponsorship money, it's in the cultural footprint that follows her beyond the league's walls. A season without her is not a normal season, it's a crisis. It's broadcast partners asking hard questions. It's arenas watching demand soften. It's sponsors shifting budgets. It's the league trying to sell a product without the main reason casual fans tuned in. And the veterans who are resisting, the ones who feel like the narrative erased them, they might win a moral argument in a room. But moral arguments don't pay media rights. They don't hold attention spans. They don't build momentum. Momentum is built by people who make the general public care. And right now, she is the gravity that makes everything else move. So the clock is ticking toward 2026, and the league has one job. Decide what it values more. The comfort of the old order, or the reality of the new one. Because if they pick wrong, they won't just lose a player. They'll lose the moment. And moments like this don't come back. And that's why this saga isn't over. It's just entering its most dangerous chapter. If you want the next piece when the negotiations start leaking, when the pressure turns public, and when the power plays get exposed, stay locked in with Courtside Leaks. Drop your take in the comments. Do you think the league will meet her conditions, or are they about to fumble the biggest era they've ever had? Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next upload. We've got every angle covered, every leak, every backstage twist, every moment they won't show you. Hit like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this video. Stay locked in with Courtside Leaks, your home for the truth behind the WNBA headlines.